so we've been working on the student class object, and we're going to do a couple more methods that will just be some useful methods for our object. We're going to create one for getting the average score, and we're going to create one for getting the high score. So I'll teach you a little bit about some of the algorithms you would use to do some of these. And the average is pretty straightforward. It's just some math. It's a public method so that it's accessible to anyone. It's going to return an int. Now, you could return it as a float if you wanted to. And it just depends. Do you want it exact? So in this case, we're just going to give a whole number because it's an int. Okay, so now we don't need anything in here. We do not need any formal parameters. So we don't need to put any information here. It doesn't need to capture anything to get the average. We already have access to those through test 1, test 2, test 3. So in this case, we're going to create a variable average. By the way, you could just have a return and throw a little map thing there, but we're going to go ahead and calculate this. Average equals. Now, because we're returning an int, whatever we end up with, we're going to cast that as an int. So to cast, in the case of these number variables like int and float, we put them in parentheses. Okay, and so it's going to take whatever the answer is. In this case, it's going to be in a float because we're going to get a precise number, and then we're going to convert it to an integer. We're also going to use the math module, and we're going to use math.round to do this. Okay, so in math.round, what we're going to do is we're going to calculate it, and then we're going to let the round method determine whether it's going to round it up or down depending on what the answer is. Okay, so math.round. So what we're going to do is we're going to pass it. We want to take 3 tests and divide by 3 to get the average. In order to do that, we have to take care of our order of operations. Okay, since division happens before addition by the order of operations, what we need to do is we need to add them all up first before we divide it by 3. But just to prove our point, let's just go ahead and show you test 1 plus test 2 plus test 3. Now, if we were to leave it just like this, it would take test 3, divide by 3, and then add tests 1 and 2 to it. So just to prove the point, I'll go ahead and return it. Now, this is obviously not how you're going to do it. Okay. And so let's also add to our string here, str plus equals, and then we're going to put average score. And then plus, now we're going to put get average. Okay, and it should work. We might have to put a little this in front of it, but we're just going to test it out just to see if that works. So we run it. Now I changed my other code just a little bit. So average score 210, 198. That's clearly not the average. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. And just to prove the order of operations. So we go back here, and now we're going to put these in parentheses. Those of you just tuning in now to the video, hopefully you'll get this right. And those of you that skipped and decided to be done, you missed out. Now we have average score. So it turns out if you have 2 A's and then you end up with a C, you're going to end up with a B. And in here, you got 2 B's. Even though you get 100 and you ace the last one, it doesn't mean your average is going to be an A either. So we learned a little something here today. Now, I just want to show you just one last thing in case you were wondering how we got all this information. So what we did here is we declared 2 different objects. We created a S1 for student 1 and an S2. To create S1, we decided to do it in 2 steps. We decided to declare the object and then initialize it each on their own line, each their own instruction. Then for student 2, we went ahead, and this is Billy Bob Joe, and we went ahead, by the way, students chose the name, and we went ahead and we did student S2 equals new student, and we just did it all in one. We declared it and initialized it. Then we had to set the name for our first student, so that was Samantha, also student chosen, and then we set 3 different scores. Then we took S2, which already had a name, and we set 3 scores there. And then we ran the whole thing. And then all we did here was just use the toString method so we could get our information of our students. So we come back here, and I'll just leave you with the code on getAverage. Now we've got some time here, so I'm going to go ahead and do one more method, which is getting the high score. So the high score is also going to return an int, and it's getHighScore. Now, getting the high, so this is a fun little computer science exercise. Okay, we're trying to find the highest. We're going to have to basically start looking through all our different tests, and we're going to progress through each of them, checking each one to see which one is the highest. We can't do it all at once. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to declare high score. So we declare that variable, it's an int. I'm just going to go ahead and return it because I hate looking at those red underlines. And at this point, it's happy, even though, technically speaking, it's not because I never set int. I never set high score. Excuse me, I did the wrong variable. Although I think if you initialize it, it may still not like it. Okay, because we never set the value of high score. All right, so anyway, here's what we're going to do. We're going to set high score to the value of test 1. Okay? So we're just going to assume it's test. We're going to start with test 1, and then all we have to do is compare test 1 to test 2. So if test 2 is greater than high score. Now we're looking at high score. We're not going to do it as test 1 instead. We've already set high score to test 1 anyway, so we can just compare it here. And then, if that's the case, that means test 2 is higher than test 1, so we're just going to go ahead and set test 2 to high score. I'm sorry, set high score to test 2. Okay? First instruction. Notice, I did not put it in its own indented line after curly brackets. That's because it's only one instruction as a result of the if test. So we are totally within our rights to do this. Okay, next. We do not need an else if because we've already we either know test 1 or test 2 is greater than the other. So we've already set that. So now we're going to check test 3. If test 3 is greater than high score, then we're going to set high score to test 3. Okay? So you see what's happening here? So high score gets the first score. In the case of Spamantha over here, 90 is test 1. So high score will be 90. Then we're going to check test 2. Test 2 is 95. If 95 is greater than 90, okay? Then we take high score, which was 90, and we set it to test 2, in this case 95. Then we check test 3. Is 75 greater than 95? No. So we don't, in this case, change it. So at this point, high score is equal to 95. And let's run it again like we're doing it with Billy Bob Joe, excuse me. First test is worth 80. So we set high score to 80. We just do it automatically. Then we check test 2. 85. Is 85 greater than high score? Yes. 85 is greater than 80. So now high score gets set to test 2. So now high score is set to 85. Then we check 85. Is it greater than 100? I'm sorry, take it back. Test 3 is 100. High score is 85. 100 is greater. So now we set high score to test 3. Now it's worth 100, and we return that value. And now let's go ahead and we'll put on here highest score. And now we put a plus. And now we're going to put get high score. And we just call the function, send out the output of it. So let's test that out. I think we're good to go. And here we go. High score is 95. Yes, that's correct. Billy Bob Joe, high score is 100. If we want to test this out and try all possibilities for highest score, one of the things that we can do is we can test all possible outcomes. So in this case, for example, the highest score is the second test. And in this one, the highest score is the third test. Why don't we try where the first one is the highest score, and we'll test that out. And then we'll test it where maybe 2 are correct and 1 is higher. Or, you can do endless tests to check this out. But for sure, we got to try one where the first score is the highest. So for Billy Bob, oops, wrong window. For Billy Bob, I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to make score 1 100, and I'm going to make score 3 be 99. And we'll go ahead and test that out. Sure enough, highest score is 100. So we've tested it where we put the highest score in each one. And if we want to, we can go ahead and try the highest score in all. And again, you can just do endless variations of this to test it out. And of course, that would make sense that average score would be 100 and highest would be 100. So it's really not too difficult to figure out. So anyway, good luck with this. In the future, we're going to start talking about inheritance and other items. And we'll try looking at something more interesting than a student. We'll come up with another project. So stay tuned for that.